In this video, I'm going to clean the frame and all the frame pieces of the Glock 19 Generation 4. So I have taken it apart in a prior video, and now I'm going to just clean everything up, and then I'm going to reassemble it. Alright, so first, I'm just going to start with the frame part. I'm basically just going to take a cotton swab, go in here and just kind of wipe everything down. I'm also going to use a rag cut up t-shirt to get the bigger areas. Any metal areas that have any buildup, these aren't too bad, but get a little solvent. I use Hops number 9 solvent. It's pretty cheap, works really well. I like to keep it in this pump dispenser so it keeps the main portion of it from getting contaminated, because you just pump up how much you need, get a little on a cotton swab, and then just clean. I'm just going to clean the metal here, the frame slides, make sure everything's nice and clean when we put it back together. And that's really all the metal there is on the Glock frame, and then I'm just going to dry that off. These cotton swabs have a nice tip on them, a nice pointed tip, so you can really get down in some of the tighter areas a little bit easier. Alright, I think I got the frame pretty good. Now I'm just going to go through and look at each piece, and if it just needs wiping down, I'm just going to wipe it down. Quick little bit of solvent in here, and then wipe it off with a cotton rag. And I'm just going to do this for every piece. Just wipe it down, hit it with solvent if it needs it. Trigger pin, locking block pin. This is the slide lock lever. Get everything pretty good. This is the slide lock lever spring. This is the slide stop lever. Just clean that up. Oh boy, that was a little dirty. Get that pretty good. Alright, this is the magazine release. Usually doesn't get too dirty, but we're going to wipe it down. Magazine release spring, quick wipe. Alright, now we're getting to the trigger and the trigger housing right here. I definitely want this to be super clean. Alright, now the trigger bar and trigger housing, I am going to use some solvent here. I just want it to be real clean. And so I'm going to use solvent here, but I'm just going to make sure I wipe it off real well. I'm going to get all these areas. This is where the connector attaches. Alright, I'm going to get the ejector. I'm going to get all the dirt off of here. Alright, now I'm just going to use a dry, clean cotton swab to get all the solvent out of here. And then give it a good wipe down with a rag. Get this nice and clean. Alright, push the rag down in there. Alright, and there's the trigger housings clean. Now I'm going to hit the connector with some solvent. This is a critical component, so I want it to be super clean. And then a nice wipe down. The trigger spring, this is really not dirty. I don't know that I need to do anything, but one of the things I do on a spring if it is dirty is I get a pipe cleaner, get a little solvent on one end, push it through the spring a couple of times, and then you just push the rest of the pipe cleaner through the dry part, and that's going to dry and clean the rest of the spring. Blow it off to get any strands from the pipe cleaner out of there. Alright, and now we're going to do the actual trigger, the trigger shoe. You can just wipe that down. It shouldn't be too bad. And on the actual trigger bar, I'm just going to get some solvent on here. See how much of this comes up. Alright, especially up here. Or this is the sear, and this is where it releases the striker up here. So we want to get all this nice and clean. And then wipe it down real good. Just be careful you don't bend anything while you're cleaning it. That is nice and clean. Now I think we are ready with all the frame parts. Alright, now I'm going to reassemble the frame after cleaning all the parts here. Alright, I'm going to start with the magazine release. We're going to put the magazine release in place. So we want to make sure we have it on the correct side. If you're right-handed, you want the release, this ridged part, to be on the left side of the gun, but you can also put it in for a left-handed shooter the other way. Now that's in a different video. So we're going to bring it through from the other side. So you push it in this way. So get a finger up inside the gun to kind of hold that in place. Alright, and once you get it in, you're going to want to hold that, especially on this side, so it doesn't fall out on you. Alright, and now what we want to do is reinsert this pin down in the notch in the bottom. Get a hold of your pin with the needle nose pliers. Alright, just take the pin and just push it down in there into the hole in the bottom there. Get in like that, and then make sure you push it down all the way as far as it's going to go, straight down. If you don't push it down all the way, you're not going to be able to get it back into the notch. Alright, and now the notch is over here, so you want to get your screwdriver. Make sure you're keeping pressure over here so you don't move it out of place. And snap it behind the notch so it ends up being like that, and then test it. Boom, you bounce back like that. Before you go too much further, you might want to just test it. Get an empty magazine, pop it in, make sure it doesn't come out until you press the magazine release, and then it comes out. All right, now let's move on to the slide stop mechanism. All right, so we want to put this spring in, and it goes in this way. You can see how I'm holding that. It goes in this way, and it kind of sits down in this notch right there. All right, so if you get it in there, it's going to look just like that. It's got a spring action, so when you press down, it pushes back up again, and that's exactly what you want. All right, so now you want to get the actual stop here, and this is going to go in this way. It's got this number on it, and that's going to face the back of the gun. All right, put this in just a little ways. You don't want it to get to where the spring is yet. Okay, hold it in place and then press down on the spring all the way down, and then you can push this across until it's right in the middle, and then let go of your spring. All right, that's pretty easy. So now you press down on it like that. You can see your takedown levers going down. All right, and that is exactly how that should look. All right, next we're going to reinstall the trigger. So first we need to put it back together. We took a few pieces off here. So first we need to put the connector back in. So the connector just goes into this little slot right here. All right, and you just press that in nice and straight. All right, and it's going to sit like this a little bit, and that's normal to be sticking out just a little bit. The trigger housing goes in this orientation in relationship to the frame, and the trigger is over here. So first thing we need to do is connect these two together with the trigger spring. So this trigger spring, I'm not sure it matters which way it goes, like this or like that, but we're going to go this way. This is the way it was in there. And first we're going to connect it to this hole in the trigger bar. So you just kind of slide that over, finagle it a little bit until it sits in there, and it's going to look something like this. All right, and then to hook the other end of the spring into this little spot in the back here, just kind of line it up like this, and you're going to take this gap in the spring and line it up here and kind of slide that up underneath until the spring comes through like that. Might take a few tries, but it's going to end up looking just like that, and it's actually going to come around like this. So in the end, the spring is going to be located inside the housing. So next, we need to get this part of the sear lined up with this slot in the back here. All right, so if you hold things like this, just kind of push this down, turn it sideways, and then get that flange right there to go into that slot in the back there. Okay, so you can see it coming through the slot. And then this part of the trigger bar goes underneath the connector. So it's going to sit just like that. So you need to kind of squeeze this a little bit until you get it into the frame to hold it together. And then your trigger sits like this. So if everything is put together properly, it's going to look like this. Once you get it in the gun will keep the pressure on it, so you don't have to worry about that. So it should be held kind of like this. All right, get your frame and hold it like this. And this goes in the back, and the trigger is going to kind of drop in. You're going to need to help it so it goes in the right way. And once you get the back in, it goes down about that far, just like that. And then the trigger, just make sure that hole in the trigger lines up with the hole in the frame. So you can see it's not lined up, and now it is lined up. And that's going to be like that when we put the trigger pin through. All right, but before we do that, we need to put a couple more things in here. Kind of hold that in place. It doesn't have to be too perfect at this moment. So this is the next thing that's going to go in. This is your slide stop lever. So that goes in here. And we're just kind of lay it in there. Right like that, and you also need to make sure if you look in the hole that that's also lined up. Okay, so we can just set that in there right now like that. The last thing we're going to put in here is this locking block, and that's just going to kind of slide in here like that, and that also needs to line up with the hole. So right now if you look in there, you see a bunch of things. If everything's sitting the right way, you can see right through that trigger hole. Okay, so right now everything's lined up. And while that is lined up, you want to put your trigger pin back through there, kind of push it through. And if you have trouble, wiggle this a little bit to get it through there, and then you push it. If you have to tap it very, very lightly with a tool, you can do that until it comes through the other side. You just want to get it to sit just like that. And now you can just make sure when you push that up, it pops back down. Your trigger is going to be locked back there for the moment until we get everything else on there. And then the back here, your trigger housing, if you can see all the way through this hole, you're in good shape. And while you can see through that hole, get your trigger housing pin, push that in there, force that through. You can use your bench block if you want, but you just want to kind of push that down. You want it to be nice and even, so it needs to go a little bit more. Just get it pretty much centered. If you had a back strap on there, you're going to go ahead and put that on before you put the pin through there. Be a little easier that way. And then your final pin is your locking block pin. You can put that through there. That should go in pretty easy. Looks like it's centered on both sides. Alright, that perfect. Now everything in the frame has been cleaned and reassembled. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Thanks for watching. Please check out the description for the tools and items we used in the video today, and we'll see you in the next video.